This is the election period, Next year we'll have the general election. So everybody is talking about elections all over the place. Just yesterday, the ADC, just like they call it, the factional ADC, led by David Mark, had their national convention. The APC had theirs already. So subsequently, other political parties will be having their national convention. But today, I want to speak about the electoral system, the the umpire for every general election. The name of the chairman is Joash Amopitan. He has been fraught with a plethora of allegation. He is not even trusted by Nigerians, only trusted by members of and supporters of the ruling party that appointed him the chairman. Me personally, even on the very first day he was appointed the INEC chairman, I raised my concerns. I was very clear this guy is going to be the worst chairman of INEC in the history. No, I didn't even say he was going to be. I already confirmed it by saying he is the worst. On the very first day he assumed office, I said it and I kept saying it. I even started a hashtag Joash now wash, you know, but nobody paid attention until it started playing out. If it's about the 2027 election, just forget it. You might get a few picks from the National Assembly, from the State Assembly. You will hardly get a pick from governorship. But for the presidential, just forget it. It's Tinubu that will be returned. But there is a but. The but is that if you want to remove Tinubu, it is not impossible, but the possibility is not through elections because elections do not determine who becomes president of Nigeria. I don't know how long I will say it, but it can be possible through an electoral process. And what's that electoral process? Electoral revolution. When you vote and you insist that your vote counts, and you don't take anything but my vote must count, the system is going to respond. The system might possibly respond with violence. But when you endure the violence by the system will give away. And that is the day the people have won. But when you want to do things like, they have stolen my mandate, let's go and challenge it in court, you will never get the president that reflected the choice of the people. It has not happened before. So I am going to explain the system, the electoral system, and we are going to understand why your votes will never count until the day you are ready to turn it to an electoral revolution. Like I always say, when you do not start addressing an issue from the foundation, from the root cause, you will never fix it. So how did the electoral system of Nigeria come about? In 1861, the colonialists, they are the ones that brought governance, like modern day governance, to Africa, to Nigeria. We were self-governing people, little by little, in our small, small communities, and we were doing very well. There wasn't an electoral fraud. There wasn't electoral campaign. There were no billboards, vote for me, and all those things. We were just fine until they invaded our lands and brought the things that have led to what we are currently experiencing. So the Lagos Council was set up in 1861. That Lagos Council is a colonial council, or was a colonial council by the colonialists, the British, to govern their acquired territory, because the territory that is called Nigeria was acquired by the British government. So they needed to enforce obedience. How they acquired the territory is a whole story for another day. So they established the Lagos Council in 1861. Government has started, but without any election. Then Frederick Logard came, and then the official administrative scheming started. By administrative scheming, I mean colonial administration, because it was a scheme. 1914 to 1922, Lugard was the Governor General of Nigeria. He was Governor General of Nigeria until 1919, but the Lugard Constitution endured till 1922. It was Hugh Clifford who took over from Lugard in 1919, and then he endured the Lugard Constitution until 1922, where he introduced his own Clifford's Constitution. So between 1914 to 1919, that's 5 years, Lugard governed Nigeria without any elected officer, without any elected administrator. He was, Governor General. He was they even called him Lord. Your words are yea and amen. Whatever he said, it's what would be. No checks, no periodic elections. The people didn't have a say in governance. This is the foundation that has been laid. So Clifford introduced electoral participation in the 1922 Clifford Constitution. But that electoral participation was restricted to VIPs. It was only elites who were permitted to take part in the electoral process. You would understand why our political system is elitist, is class. If you do not belong to a particular class, you will not be relevant. And it is the class of the wealthy, the economically well-to-do class. That is why today you can sell a piece of paper for 100 million naira. They call it form, interest form. You want to buy a form to contest. Not the form does not give you an automatic ticket to becoming the president. You want to buy a form to contest, to declare your interest. 100 million naira. It is traceable to the Clifford Constitution of 1922. Electoral participation was limited to people who lived in Calabar or Lagos, and those must be people under British protection. Those the people that have direct access to the colonialists. And then you must have at least £100. You must be worth £100. Then for you to have £100, then it's like you are Dangote. So how many Nigerians had £100? That's the qualification to participate in the electoral process by Clifford Constitution. You could see how it goes. Then Clifford left and Arthur Richard came. Richard came, and in 1946 he rolled out the Richard Constitution. It was in the Richard Constitution that indirect rule was incorporated into the administrative system. Then the traditional rulers became members of the ruling council. But those traditional rulers were called unofficial members because they were not elected. They did not become members of the ruling council, unofficial self, by the reason of an electoral process. There were 28 in numbers. 24 of them were selected. The governor general will just look at this Igwe is loyal to me. Oh yeah, enter the ruling council. This imam or this sultan or this bashorun or this oba is loyal to me. Oh yeah, enter the ruling council. 24 of them, only 4 were elected. So out of 28 unofficial members of the ruling council, the people that will become the leaders, the people with whom you will lead Nigeria, indirect, they lead through those people. Out of 28, only 4 were elected, 24 were selected. You are going to understand why the electoral system of Nigeria is about selection. It started from the beginning. He now had to go over to Macpherson after Arthur Richard. Macpherson became the Governor General in 1951. So consultation was made and legislative and executive councils were created. Before, it was just the ruling council. But in Macpherson's tenure, they divided the ruling council into legislative and executive. So there is a body that makes the law, there is a body that executes it. But then the president or the governor general was supposed to be a member of the executive council, the head of the executive council, but rather he was both the head of the executive council and the head of the legislative council. These governor generals, who were like the presidents of the country, were never elected. They were selected by the British Crown in London. All of them were selected from London to be the presidents or the governor generals in Nigeria. Why is it so? Because Nigeria is, not was, is their acquired territory. Now, 6 ex-official members were split between the executive and the legislative councils. 3 in the executive council, 3 in the legislative council. Then they had 136 representatives that were elected. And then 6 special members were appointed or selected by the Governor General. Now, election happened and they had 136 members were elected. We will not go into how that election was conducted. It's a story for another day. But it is what led to how elections are conducted in Nigeria today. But you have special members, the people you want to really work with, the people that are the deciders. Like they say it in the streets, kitchen cabinet. Those ones that are most important to the government. 6 were selected by you. So the ones who do the real business of government were not elected. After that, they had the London conference, when, excuse me, Nigeria started getting ready for independence. Tony Enahoro, one of the representatives in the Legislative Council, he moved a motion for Nigeria to have independence, I think in 1956. So that independence, the independence in quote, we were supposed to have it before 1960, but the Hausa Fulani said they weren't ready for independence. It was part of what further caused ethnic division in Nigerian politics. So in 1953, there was a London conference. Azikiwe, Awolowo, Tafawa Balewa all went to London to discuss the independence of Nigeria. And you will need an independence constitution. So it followed by a constitutional conference in Lagos, the Lagos Constitutional Conference in the next year, 1954. And then the independence constitution was getting ready. In that 1954, Oliver Littleton became Governor General. It was Oliver Littleton's constitution that created regional government. He devolved power, on papers anyway. He had the eastern region, the northern region, and also the western region. So regional government, that was when federalism started making sense in Nigeria. And then the Independence Constitution in 1960. Very important is that the 1960 was when they said we officially started ruling or administering over our own affairs, which is not true. But on papers, we got independence in 1960. There was an election that brought the parliament, the executive, but there needed to be a governor general. And this governor general is the one who carries out the instructions of the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. That position was also, that's why they call Nnamdi Azikiwe the first president of Nigeria. He was never a president. He was a governor general that was selected. He didn't get the position out of an election. He was selected to become governor general in 1960. When this kind of foundation has been laid, you know, if the first governor general, indigenous governor general, that is regarded as the first president, did not emerge as a result of an election, how will that country fare going forward? All the people that laid the foundation, the people that created and erected what is called Nigeria and the government of Nigeria, they never did that through any election. They were all selected. And then we now created the Federal Electoral Commission, FEC. FEC moved to FEDECO, Federal Electoral Commission. You know, it now moved to, I think, NEC, National Electoral Commission. I think it also moved, I am not too sure, to NECON, National Electoral Commission of Nigeria, until we have INEC today, independent. They say it is independent Electoral Commission. But we are running a system that has zero regards for election. That system is a colonial system that has not been questioned. The system is still in place. It's just like building a house with sand. It was proverbial even in the Bible. You build a house with sand, the house will not stand. The house will be shaking. The reason for that is that the foundation is sandy. Until you go back to the foundation, I am not a building engineer, but I know that engineering has a way of handling foundations. Sometimes you see cracks on the wall. They will tell you the foundation is faulty. Those cracks you are seeing in the Nigerian politics, government and politics today, those things that happen in our electoral system today, the reason everybody is saying Amupitan should go, those are the cracks that are as a result of the faulty foundation that has been laid in our electoral system. And this faulty foundation cuts across every other system, be it electoral system, be it health system, be it uh, educational system, be it industrialization, whatever at all. That's why we are saying the system is the problem. But we are scoping the electoral system today. We must rebuild the system before we think of credible elections. The system is not a system that respects credible elections. The system does not understand elections. What it understands is selection. The Queen kept selecting who becomes the Governor General until they even selected the indigenous Governor General. The only Governor General that was a Nigerian, Nnamdi Azikiwe, was selected. That is the only thing the system can do. It cannot produce an elected president. It can't. It is impossible with the system we are maintaining. That is why anybody that wants to become, if someone emerged president now, winner of presidential election, the next thing you see is that that person is going to London before coming to do swearing in at the Eagle Square. What are you going to London to do? You're going to London to identify with the person that selected you and say, this is how we want you to govern over Nigeria. And you swore or you swear to the oath, and that's it. Even prior to the election proper, you will see all these candidates jostling for spaces at Chatham House, going abroad to visit all sorts of people, visiting British High Commissioner, visiting US Embassy. All of those things are pointing to one thing. The Nigerian people do not have a say in who becomes their president. Then moving on to the talk about the president appointing the chairman of the Electoral Commission. What do you expect in a system that does not respect the electoral process? A system that is not run by elections? Anything can just happen. But let us be clear that the president appoints the INEC chairman will not even matter if the system is run with respect for the electoral process. It will not matter who appoints the INEC chairman. The INEC chairman would only misbehave because the system does not permit the INEC chairman to behave, because the system does not recognize elections. If the system was running the way it was supposed to run as a respecter of the electoral process, the INEC chairman that was appointed by the president will produce a result that is carrying a reflection of the minds of the people. And if that result means the president, the incumbent president who appointed the INEC chairman, will have to leave office, he will leave. It has happened in 2015. It was Jonathan that appointed Atahiru Jega. But what happened? Even the defeat by Buhari didn't represent the will of the people. Jonathan was defeated not because the electoral process was fair. It was not free, it was not fair. I participated in that election. But Jonathan was only removed because the system does not respect election. The owners of Nigeria didn't want Jonathan to continue as president. It was very clear. You can go and read the book he wrote. In 1993, Babangida appointed Humphrey Nwosu as the chairman of the electoral body. He was conducting an election that was commendable. They started counting votes. When the votes were favoring the person that Babangida didn't find okay to become president. He annulled it clearly. What this means is that the people will always want to choose their leader, but the system will not permit it. In 2023, the one that brought in what we currently have, we all saw what happened in that election. They will move it from this place to this place to that place until it ended in the Supreme Court. And they said he was made president on technical grounds, not on electoral grounds, on technical grounds. The reason is that is who the owners of Nigeria have selected to be president. So it's not about your vote. I am sorry. But then, having said all these things, what is the way forward? It's simple. Electoral revolution. That is the only way you can remove the system. The system doesn't want the people to have a say in who becomes their president. And it is the people that will fight it down. I am not saying by revolution, I am not saying violence. You would decide what revolution means to you. But for me, I believe in intellectual revolution. Let it be in the consciousness of an average Nigerian that it is their right, it is normal that they are the one who choose who becomes their president. Believe in it like you believe in Jesus, like you believe in Muhammad. You see the way people are ready to die for Muhammad, for Islam. People are ready to die for Christianity. They asked Job to curse God. He refused. He said, I would rather die. You know, the Bible says to live is Christ, to die is gain. The way you are ready to die for your religion, if you believe so, that my vote will count or let the wall fall, the system will fall. It is as simple as that. The people that will always say we don't joke with Jesus, we are ready to die. How many of them have died for Christ's sake? How many of them have died for Muhammad's sake? The ones who did suicide bombing, they did that maybe for fun. They weren't under pressure. How many do you know in Nigeria that were pressured, were pushed back, and they insisted, I must die for Jesus, I must die for Muhammad, and they died? The reason you are even dying in politics is because you are afraid of dying. When you stop being afraid, it is fear that kills. So when I hear people say, Nigeria is not worth dying for, well, you might have a point, but you do not have to die before you can experience the Nigeria of your dream. You just have to believe that to live is Nigeria, to die is gain. When you are afraid of death, that's when death comes. Mythologically speaking, you know, people attract what they fear. Why are you afraid? Like we used to say when we were growing up, man die go, woman born another. Why are you afraid? Just like Two-Face Idibia said it, or nobody won't buy, but they won't go heaven. You cannot get to heaven but by dying. So if you want Nigeria to be heaven, you have to be ready to sacrifice for it. It is that sacrifice that nobody seems to want to be ready for. They are afraid that they are going to die. And that's why the system that will never allow your vote to count will continue. We are going into 2027 elections. Inculcate the attitude of a daredevil. The system will not do anything. No. They will only threaten you initially. But when they threaten you for 1 week, you chicken out. It is the chickening out that has continued to keep Nigeria in a state where the common man is in perpetual hunger, starvation, sorrows, tears, and blood. Until we are ready, as in really, really ready to say our vote. See, it is not difficult. When you insist that your vote will count, your vote will count. Just insist that your vote will count. Take nothing but a counted vote. If they went ahead to announce whatever, no, you say this is not our result. We have our result sheets. We'll hold it down, hold INEC down, hold them down. There is a level to which you will do this. The thing is that when it is getting to that point, the system knows the point where they will break down. It is at that point that they will start shooting. But that is supposed to be the set time. The moment we can cross over from that their shooting point, it is all over for them. But when Nigerians just hear, bah, 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 everybody runs and the system continues. Good morning.